दारू बदनाम करती ए तानैना तेरियां दे कार।
ओ दारू बदनाम करती ए तानैना तेरियां दे कारे।
Hey everyone, I'm sure by now you guys would have guessed what today's topic is about. Yes, you're right, it's about alcohol abuse. But when do we call a person alcoholic? Is it when he has 1 drink per week, 2, 3 drinks per week? Or is it when somebody has drinks on all 7 days a week? Watch the video to know the answer. Well, whatever your guesses are, all of you are wrong. Because we psychiatrists would refrain from using the term alcoholic because it is purely derogatory and harsh to call a person alcoholic. So the right term is alcohol dependence. So usually when we make any diagnosis in psychiatry, we use certain criteria. There are 2 broad books that we use for making diagnosis, that is ICD and DSM. So basically I'm trying to tell you this because we don't make diagnosis from our pockets. If that was the case, then each and every person in that queue we would have diagnosed him with one psychiatric condition or the other. So let me tell you how to find out if a person around you is an alcohol dependent individual, alcohol dependent syndrome person. Okay, so one of the first criteria is that these individuals have a very strong urge to consume alcohol, what is also known as craving. There's a intense urge that I have to drink alcohol, more so on a daily basis. The second one is broadly known as tolerance. So tolerance means initially when a person would start drinking, he would consume say about 1 beer or say about 30 ml or 60 ml of hard liquor. However, over a period of time, gradually the amount of alcohol that he consumes will slowly be increased to an amount which would suppose he has instead of having just 1 beer, he needs to have 2 or 3 beers to get the same amount of kick or the buzz, what we usually say. And the same case for hard liquor, maybe more than 60 ml, say 1 quarter or 2 quarters would be needed for the same individual to have the buzz. Yeah, so that's the second criteria. Coming to the third criteria, there's an entity called as salience. So salience basically means that this particular individual would want to have alcohol if it's a birthday of a relative, if he's attending a death ceremony, if he's attending a wedding, or if he has to go to shopping mall, or if he's going to watch a cinema. Basically every other activity in his life is wholly and solely dependent on alcohol. Alright, so the fourth criteria is that these individuals have a physical symptoms, physical evidence of withdrawal from alcohol. That is, when they abstain from consuming alcohol, they develop certain symptoms such as shaking of the hands, tremors, or palpitations, increased heartbeat, or anxiety, insomnia, unable to sleep, etc. I'll come to it later. So then the fifth criteria is that these individuals have an inability to control their drinking pattern. Initially they say that I'll just have 1 drink today, not more than a drink, maybe 1 beer, maybe 60 ml. However, as they start drinking, they are unable to control and stick to their plan. So they end up drinking more than what was planned before. The last criteria is that these individuals tend to persist to drink in spite of knowing that alcohol is harmful to them. That is, when an individual knows that I have a liver problem, or I have gastritis, I have been vomiting blood, etc., etc. So in spite of knowing all these problems, that is mainly because of alcohol, they still continue to drink alcohol. In this video, I would also like to talk about the harmful effects of alcohol, and for better understanding, I'd like to divide it into 2 main categories. That is, the harmful effects because of continued consumption, that is the current consumption of alcohol, and on the other hand, harmful effects because of withdrawal state, or when the patient has stopped consuming alcohol. So on this side, when the patient is continuing to drink alcohol on a very regular basis, that is almost on a daily basis, these patients would develop symptoms. They may develop symptoms starting from the oral cavity, that is, ulcers, mouth ulcers, ulcers of the gastrointestinal tract, persistent vomiting, also sometimes blood in the vomiters. They can develop abdominal pain, abdominal bloating, jaundice, and they can also have repeated head injuries. And if they are riding a two-wheeler or even driving a car under the intoxicated state, they can have road traffic accidents. And if the head injury is severe enough, they can even go into coma and ultimately leading to death of an individual. On the other hand, I said that once the patient has stopped consuming alcohol, he still can have symptoms, but these are known as the withdrawal symptoms of alcohol. The most common symptoms of alcohol withdrawal are tremors, that is the minute tremulousness of the hands or sometimes the entire body of the patient. And along with this, they'll also have tachycardia, that is increased heartbeat, breathing difficulty, confusion, getting irritable over very trivial issues, what we call as dysphoric feeling. And they sometimes, if the withdrawal is very severe, they can also develop seizures, or commonly known as fits. And some of the individuals will also go into a state called as delirium tremens. And in delirium tremens, the patient usually has hallucinations, delusions, and a totally disoriented state. This particular individual will not know whether he is in the hospital or a hotel or a temple or a mosque, or he basically doesn't know where he is, and he also doesn't know who is interacting with. He won't know the time, year, month. So he's basically in a confused state of mind. And these are the various symptoms of a patient who's in alcohol withdrawal. Now, another important thing which I need to highlight is what about the other general health conditions that are affected by alcohol use? Alcohol affects almost each and every part of the body. It includes the hematopoietic system, the liver, kidney, you name it. It affects each and every part of the body. And the most common general health symptoms that we see may be hepatic failure, liver failure because of chronic alcohol use, cirrhosis, and Mallory-Weiss tear is another particular symptom where the patient ends up vomiting blood recurrently. And cancer of the stomach, cancer of the intestines, these are all commonly known. Why I'm stressing on this cancer part of it is, if you think that alcohol will not cause major problems, then you're wrong, because it can lead to a lot of conditions affecting the entire body. Now, me just sitting here and telling you this can happen, that can happen, I'm pretty sure you guys won't believe me if I don't give you the facts. And after all, everything around us is about numbers, statistics. So I thought I'll just put out some numbers before you, some of the facts before you, so that you'll also realize why this video is important. Yeah, so in this particular slide, you can see that there are around 16 crore users of alcohol in our country, out of which 5.7 crore are problem users and around 2.9 crore people are dependent users, that is, the people who are alcohol dependent. Okay, you can also see that for every 17 men, there is one woman who's being diagnosed as alcohol dependent. Ladies, this is not a competition. Please don't take it as a challenge. Right. So let's look into the prevalence of some of the alcohol use disorders and comparing it with other disorders in psychiatry. As you can see in this particular slide, 4.6% is the extent of alcohol use disorders as compared to around 20.9 for tobacco consumption. This is very simple to explain this. Why is tobacco consumption more than alcohol or any other substance use? It is mainly and purely because of the extent of availability. Tobacco can be used in multiple forms, that is chewing, smoking, etc. This particular slide, although you can see that it's a repetition, but what I want you to focus on is On one hand, there is 4.6% prevalence of alcohol use disorders, and as compared to other disorders in psychiatry, that is schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, etc., can you see the prevalence of other disorders is far lesser than alcohol use disorders. That is why this particular topic is very important, and alcohol dependence or the alcohol related problems is just a tip of an iceberg, and we really need to focus on this aspect to help so many people in our society. Lastly, coming to the treatment of alcohol dependence syndrome, and I'd like to classify it as pharmacological, that is with medications, and non-pharmacological approach, that is using certain therapy techniques. Now, pharmacological management, we use medications to prevent the person from going into withdrawal state, also to stabilize the patient initially, and also there are some drugs which help in reducing the craving for the alcohol use, and that is the initial stabilization. After that, what we do is certain forms of therapies called the MET, motivational enhancement therapy, and group therapies, or if needed family therapy or individual therapies. These are a list of therapies that we can use for a patient who is alcohol dependent. I also thought I'll put out some of the protective and risk factors. As you can see, the protective factors are a good family support, a healthy lifestyle, and certain other things, as you can see in the slide. I don't want to go through each and every one of them. And some of the risk factors are family history of alcohol use, family discord. So what you also have to remember is that in alcohol dependence syndrome, relapse is the norm. That is, a patient who has stopped or who has quit alcohol can also go into a relapse. He can start drinking again, but do not lose hopes. Persistence is the key. We have seen patients who get admitted the 4th time, 5th time, 6th time, and then ultimately they give up alcohol forever. So thanks for watching. I hope it was informative. You guys have been very supportive and putting in comments and likes. Please do the same. And if you have any queries, you can direct message me on Instagram. That is Mangalore_psychiatry_center. Thank you for watching. Bye.